Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome former Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Giffords, a surprise moment at the Democratic Convention. We're here to talk about all the conventions here on our roundtable again. And George, well, let me come to you. I guess one of the other surprises were the reviews of President Obama's speech. I kind of thought the sober tone was appropriate to the moment, but a lot of reviewers saying it was flat uninspiring.
And some people are saying that's because the White House gets the day before the jobs numbers. So he knew what was coming to deflate him. George, the big difference in American politics in a generation is this. In 1988, Michael Dukakis left the Democratic Convention with a huge bounce, 17 points ahead of George Herbert Walker Bush. On Election Day, he lost by 7 points. That's a 24-point swing. It's inconceivable that in today's electorate you could have that kind of volatility. That matters because I think what the Republicans are counting on is undecideds to break, as they usually do, against the incumbent. But how many undecideds are there?
Well, actually, it's interesting to see in comparing the 2008 exits with the 2012 average ABC polls. The groups of people who have gone off Barack Obama, moderates, Midwesterners, people 18 to 29, people with less than $50,000, they have not gone on to Romney. And that is exactly what they're still getting what McCain got. He's getting what McCain got there. So those are the groups of people he has to get. But look, I think, in fact, that the jobs numbers don't mean anything in this election. I think everybody's factored that in already. We know what the story is there. And what the Democrats are trying to do, and I think probably will succeed at doing, is putting together blocks of voters. And so, you know, you have women and minorities, gays, this convention over and over and over again, the speeches that were not on the air, we're talking about gay rights, minority rights, immigration, the DREAM Act, all of that. And I think that the Republicans have made a tremendous mistake here. In 1992, when it was the economy stupid, the minority vote was 12%. In 2008, it was 26%. It's expected to be 28% in this election. And if that's true, Obama, you know, can get 80% of the non-white vote. He can win with only 38% of the white vote.
Senator Paul, I think one of the things that Governor Romney's trying to do is to fire up his base to counter that. You write in your book that it's not enough for Republicans to elect a Republican. It's got to be the right kind of Republican. Has Governor Romney done enough to quiet the doubts among his base?
I think so. And one of the things that I think has energized the base, one of the big things that energized the Tea Party was opposition to Obamacare. So the silver lining of the Supreme Court actually upholding Obamacare is conservatives know that now it is a political decision. The only way to overturn Obamacare would be electing Governor Romney. I think that has brought his base together and will help him. As far as inclusiveness, though, you know, with the Democrat convention, they do include a lot of groups, except for the one group, like the people who believe in God had a little bit of trouble, you know, at the convention. I thought, they say images are worth 1,000 words, but when the images of people booing God, I mean, that's a tough image to overcome.
You were the co-chair of the platform committee.
Didn't that happen?
Why did you take God out?
Well, this is actually the kind of cheap shot politics that we need to get away from. I mean, seriously, because at the end of the day, if you look at the platform before it was there, faith, religion, clergy, all of that was in there a couple dozen times. All of those words were in there. This is one phrase that got left out by error of omission. If you want to talk about omissions, this is the platform committee. It's not the president. When the president found out about it, he changed it. You want to talk about omissions? Mitt Romney.
Somebody decided to take out that phrase, God-given ability.
Look, I was the co-chair of the platform committee. It was an error of omission that when the president of the United States found out about it, he changed it. But let me tell you, Romney, he found out about changes that he didn't agree with and didn't make those changes. And if you want to talk about omissions, this is why I think cheap shot politics, Romney failed to mention the war in Afghanistan in his entire thing. So what I'm saying to you is, these are the small issues we always say.
And when Romney was asked why the war in Afghanistan wasn't there, he said, well, you talk about things that you think are important.
Well, but that's at the end of the day. President's a man of faith who believes in God. Mitt Romney definitely cares about the troops in the field. Well, let's stop these descriptions of stupidity on our candidates.
But
these are both intelligent men. The reality is the real differences between the two platforms. One believes in abortion under no circumstances, rape, incest, the life of a mother. The other one says, hey, a woman has a right to choose, especially in those circumstances.
You took out, on the issue of abortion, you took out language from previous platforms that said it should be safe, legal, and rare. And I think this Democratic convention was really over the top in terms of abortion. Every single speaker talked about abortion. And, you know, at some point you start to alienate people. 30% of Democrats are pro-life.
No,
and
hold on, stop for a second. We had leaders of the Catholic Church, leaders in the Catholic faith in our convention. I'm every single speaker. I was one of them. I didn't mention abortion at all. What we did mention was that we don't think we should be gutting family planning. We don't think we should be attacking Planned Parenthood. If you want to make abortion safe, legal, and rare, support women's rights. Women's access to health care. So you're worried about those three words? I'm worried about real substantive policy, like access to health planning for families. That's what I'm interested in. One candidate says we should gut family planning, we should gut Planned Parenthood. Another candidate says we should support those things because at the end of the day, not only does it make economic sense, but it makes moral sense as well.
Taking God out may have been an act of omission.
Hold on, God was in there. Religion was in there. Faith was in there. Clergy was in there. And the word God will take care of it. This is where you take a little sound bite and extrapolate. God can take care of himself. I'm sorry.
But removing the capital of Israel was an act of commission. You go out on the street of any American city, go out in Newark, stop someone and say, what is the capital of Delaware, Vermont, and Israel? Some people are going to know Dover. Some are going to know Montpelier. Everyone except the American State Department knows that the capital of Israel is Jerusalem.
And so, George, this is because I have a lot of respect and a long friendship with you, George. So I'm not going to let you get away with this. The platform committee may have done it. But when the President of the United States found out about it, he could have just left it be. He intervened. What Romney has done, when he's found out of differences between him and his platform, he simply just tried to stiff-arm them like a good football game and distance himself from his platform that doesn't agree with him. We have a party right now where our president and our platform are beautifully aligned. And when we found changes, we went through the process to change them. Let's talk about substantive differences now between platforms, not this rhetorical stuff that's being used to bash and distract people from real economic.
There are two striking things, actually, comparing the two conventions. One is that Romney is still trying to shore up his base, and Obama is not. He seems quite confident. The other is that the Democrats
weren't trying to shore up their base?
I think they didn't have to make extraordinary efforts. He was able to do things. He was able to change the platform in ways that some of the base didn't like because he was sure that he didn't have that problem, whereas Romney was afraid to do that. And the second point is that the Democrats are on the offense on values issues. At this point, on social issues, the Democrats are the ones who are pushing the vote for us because we share your values, and I think they're right.
I want to pick up on that because the Democrats also on offense on foreign policy and national security issues, which is a big switch from past conventions. And take a look at Joe Biden Thursday night.
Said it's not worth moving heaven and earth and spending billions of dollars just to catch one person. He was wrong, because if you understood that America's heart had to be healed, you would have done exactly what the president did, and you would move heaven and earth to hunt him down and to bring him to justice.
George, well, this is a big switch.
Since the riotous convention of 1968, and then 4 years later, the nomination of George McGovern by the Democratic Party, the Democrats have been on defense on the issue of defense. That is, they've been perceived as weak. This year, there's a complete turnaround. It is the Democrats who want to talk about foreign policy, in part because they are liquidating two unpopular wars. And in point of fact, there is not, so far as I can see, a dime's worth of difference between Mr. Romney and Mr. Obama on Afghanistan going forward. But, they both subscribe to the end of 2014 timetable.
It also, I think that's right, although let me just bring in Senator Paul on this, because you and your father both tried to spark more of a debate inside your party on foreign policy.
Well, and this is one area that Cory and I are aligned. I heard his speech, and he said he wants to come home from Afghanistan. I sent a letter with one other Republican and many Democrats saying, yes, come home by all means, the sooner the better. But, you know, in the area of Afghanistan and Pakistan, one area of bin Laden that hadn't been discussed enough is you know, somehow this doctor's name got leaked, who's now being held in prison over there. And President Obama has rewarded Pakistan by giving them $1 billion extra in foreign aid. And when I get back, I'm going to ask that there be no more aid sent to foreign aid sent to Pakistan until he's released. This doctor helped us to get bin Laden, and this is important that he be released. And we shouldn't be sending good money after bad to Pakistan. And this is a difference. This is something I think Governor Romney ought to jump on. Foreign aid is very unpopular. You talk about wanting to build roads, how to build roads and armed bridges in our country. Let's quit sending it overseas and bring it back home.
And this is a real difference again. I looked at the Ryan budget. There were cuts to support services for veterans when they come home. This is one area there's a big difference. We cannot shirk on supporting. If we're going to call ourselves the home of the brave, when our men and women come home, we should make sure we're there for them. And these are the kind of investments that not only about wars abroad, but when people come home, we should be there and take care of them as a government. And I'm happy to see the Obama campaign talking about doing more from tax incentives as well as other programs.
It does seem, Cokie, that this is not a debate that the Republican ticket wants to emphasize.
No, they don't. They just don't. They don't have a real position that is, first of all, that is different from the Democrats, but also it is so sort of un-Republican to be in this place where they're feeling that they do want to disengage, and that has not been the Republican attitude. And I think that, as I say, with President Obama, that part of what we're dealing with here is when we talk about foreign policy, and particularly Osama bin Laden, it gives him the credibility as president. You know, who conducts foreign policy? The president and the State Department. And so he gets to wear his presidential mantle as he talks about foreign policy in a way that the Republicans
much more forceful. One other thing that's happening, I want to move more to the politics now, going forward to the next 58 days, I guess we have left. It is remarkable if you look, and I want to put a map up showing where Governor Romney is airing new ads with a lot of the money he has. Nevada, Colorado, Iowa, Wisconsin, Ohio, Virginia, North Carolina, Florida, and New Hampshire. That is it. That is the entire presidential election right now being fought in those states. And we've seen Romney lay out millions of dollars in ads just this weekend, state-specific ads. Here's one for Ohio.
This president can ask us to be patient. This president can tell us it was someone else's fault. But this president cannot tell us that you're better off today than when he took office.
Here in Ohio, we're not better off under President Obama. His failed economic and trade policies with China have destroyed thousands of jobs.
Actually, in Ohio, they are better off.
Yeah,
so that's a funny.
The industrial Midwest has had a huge comeback
under Obama. And one of the things at the Democratic convention that was really striking was how often they talked about the auto bailout, which of course affects Ohio tremendously.
In this sprint to November 6th, the Republicans are going to talk economics. The Democrats are going to think demographics for the reason you talked about, and particularly Hispanics. In North Carolina, where the Democrats convened, there are 830,000 Hispanics in a state that was won by 14,000 votes last time. It used to be this was a matter of the gateway states of California and Texas. Still about 47% live there, but it's all over the country now, including all those states on that map.
And this is where Republicans have made a major mistake. I did a story in the 1980s, the naturalization ceremony in California. Hispanics and Asians came out and signed up with the Republican Party. Why? We kept asking them. Because the Republicans are winners. They're the people they represent the people who make it. We came to this country to make it. Proposition 187 comes up, which was against illegal immigrants, but the people heard it as immigrants. Hispanics went 180 off of the Republican Party, and now that's happening nationwide, and I believe that the Republicans have made a mistake with immigration and now with voting rights that will last for a generation with Hispanics, at least, the way the civil rights has with blacks.
Well, you know, I think if we tied immigration to work requirements, and I think if we expanded working permits and working visas and visas for people who have education and degrees, I'm all for that. But it should be about work, and it shouldn't be about bringing people into the country and immediately putting them onto welfare, and that's the problem.
The Democratic wager is that they can get Hispanics to turn out.
Right.
Arizona is a third Hispanic. The turnout there is only 12% Hispanic. But the Republicans spent 20 debates in the primary competing to see who could pledge to build the longest, thickest, tallest, most lethally electrified fence, and Hispanics said, I detect some hostility here.
Right.
And it's going to take a long time to undo
Obama steps forward and does the right thing and says, look, if there's a kid in this country who's only pledged allegiance to one country, who's been there since he's 6, 7 months old, who's been educated in our schools, who now is contributing to our economy, we shouldn't be kicking these people out to countries that they don't know. And so this is the practical aspects of the Democratic Party right now that are speaking to Latinos who are not going to get carried away by whimsical rhetoric. They want to know who's going to present a better pathway for success. And right now, for Latinos especially, it's being offered by Democrats.
The Louisiana Republican Party was all blacks because of Abraham Lincoln. Exactly. And when you looked at a convention then, and you see Louisiana, it was black faces, right?
My wife's
but
father,
the civil rights
African-American,
bills
was Republican in Texas because and he had George H.W. Bush in his house once. Right. But that party has given up on those people.
But civil rights changed that, and as far as we know, has changed it for good.
In 1884, a prominent Republican described the Democratic Party as a party of Romanism and rebellion. It took a century for the Republican Party to win the Catholic vote.
Well, and actually, during this convention, there was a woman there who LDS for Obama. Mormons were always Democrats because the Morrill Act of 1862, which was the Land-Grant College Act, also outlawed polygamy. And that was a Republican Congress, of course, in 1862.
This is why the Democratic Party is ahead of history. When you talk about equal citizenship, this is just flowery rhetoric. It wasn't. When you say, hey, Latinos, this is the party for you, and that's a growing demographic. When it talks about gays and lesbians in this country, that we're not going to denigrate you and push you into a second-class citizenship, which denies you equal Social Security rights, equal medical rights, equal immigration rights. This is a party that's basically saying, we're going to create a pathway to economic success, but we're also going to do it in a way that includes everybody in America. Right. And that's why demographically, if demographics are destiny, the Democratic Party is going to continue pushing forward.
Regardless of the job numbers.
It's not a matter of individual speeches or strategic positioning. The Republican Party is where it is because that's where the base is. You watch that whole primary process. Republican candidates had to appeal to their base, which is by and large elderly white people arguing with empty chairs, and they could not reach out to the growing demographic of people who are not like that.
There's a big chair vote, though.
It's no secret. I saw that you paid a visit to the Iowa delegation breakfast at the convention. Everybody here is talking about how the Republican Party breaks out from its current base, expands its current base. What is the strategy for that?
Well, you know what, I've been talking to a lot of the national leaders in the Republican Party is there's certain parts of the country we've given up on, the whole West Coast and New England. So what I keep telling them is maybe we need some libertarian type Republicans who might be popular in those areas, maybe a less aggressive, more socially tolerant, but still fiscally conservative policy that may be more libertarian might do better in California, might do better in Oregon, Washington, New England. And I think if we had that, it would be a great strategy. Our problem in the presidential election is we've given up 150 electoral votes before we get started.
True. And Mayor Booker, you visited, we think that you're probably visiting New Jersey outside of Newark.
Look, at the end of the day, I went around to all the to 6, 7 different states during our convention, from Florida to Iowa, and all those states kind of get it. The more we can open up our tent demographically, the more this can be the party of inclusion, the more successful we're going to be. Because at the end of the day, America is the United States of America. We the people, e pluribus unum. And the only way, there's an old African saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. America will continue to go far if we go together.
I have to point out, not only did you go to Iowa, you went to the Iowa delegation and said you were a proud grandson of Iowa.
My grandmother, I'm going to claim every state I went to, I tried to claim my connection. But my grandmother did grow up in Des Moines. She came to Buxton, coal mining family, and I had a lot of fun with that.
So George, that is something that still happens at conventions, but there's a lot of talk around these conventions, already cut back to 3 nights. People wondering again whether they serve any useful purpose anymore, whether they should be radically changed.
I'm still stunned by the idea that you went to the Iowa caucuses. Do we have to start thinking about the Ames straw poll?
It is
The conventions.
The sun also rises. That's all I have to say.
Well, we need a little data on who watches these conventions and what effect they have, because, you know, conventions are a government program, and there's an enormous amount of tax dollars goes into this, and like all government programs, they're immortal, they go on forever. Maybe we should terminate these.
I thought that the 2 conventions were enormously informative. A lot of people who normally catch, politics in snippets on the news got to see, extended laying out of positions on both sides, and a lot happened, right? We saw the implosion of Paul Ryan, extraordinary descent in reputation because people got to see him speaking at length on national TV. We saw Bill Clinton laying out. we got to see Bill Clinton laying out a case in more detail than most people would ever get to see. These were, I'm not sure that the conventions don't, decide anything in terms of who gets nominated, but they turned out to be extremely effective educational programs.
Yeah, I think they have.
Well, I think conventions are great, and there is some information to be gathered, but I agree with George, we should get rid of the government funding of them. In fact, I've been proposing in the Senate what we should do is once a week, all the senators should come to the floor and we should have a real debate, not just speeches, 2-minute speeches, but debate back and forth, and have it sort of be mandatory that you have to show up. Because if you've ever seen the Senate floor or the House floor, there's one person talking to an empty camera.
Yep.
More discussion would be beneficial, and people could make more informed.
Well, let's see if he gets it. I'm afraid I'd love to have a lot more discussion, but we are out of time. Okay. Thanks to all of you. Conversation is going to continue online. Mayor Booker, Senator Paul are going to answer your questions on Twitter at Cory Booker and at Senator Rand Paul. Just use the hashtag this week, and check out excerpts from Senator Paul's new book, Government Bullies, on our website, abcnews.com/thisweek.